Okay.
And welcome. I'm super excited to have you a part of this journey and this summit. I'll welcome you, Prajakta, who is a public policy economist trained at Harvard and a published author of 4 books. She looks at life as a series of experiments and uses them to fuel her inspiration, which have now become a subject of her compelling books. Her latest one being the Buddha Balance Journal, which is a radical new take on the work-life balance and how inner balance can be your superpower, not only bringing confidence, but also well-being, health, and success. Yes, you can have it all and still be centered. And when she's not writing, she can be found meditating, enjoying the snow with her girls, or walking in the mystical forest of Whistler. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you, Kaneesha. I'm excited too.
Yeah, and I'll share with you and pass it over to share your journey and how you really got here. How did you come to where you're at now?
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to share how I got here because I think it's not the usual journey I could have foreseen or anyone could have foreseen. So I started out being an economist. So I went to the London School of Economics to do my economics master's, and I was minted out as a fresh new economist from one of the best places in the world. I turned to the world of public policy after that. Then I became a parent along the way, and then I became an author. And along the way of this whole journey, I did a number of experiments, as you shared, some of which took me to places and to experiences that I could have never imagined. So as I said, I started off as an economist. I traveled a lot because of my career, but also because I love traveling. I've worked with 3 reserve banks on 3 different continents. So along the way, I even wrote and published a book about the economics of East Africa because I was posted to Uganda for 2 years with their Reserve Bank. That book's called Perspectives on Uganda. And then I moved to Canada. So in Canada too, I was still working as a senior economist, but something wonderful happened, which is that I became mom to 2 beautiful daughters. And as you can imagine, life changed forever.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. It just, it's like the butterfly effect, like your angle changes a bit and you end up somewhere else. But you end up in a beautiful place once you have a family, if that's your chosen path. And so I must say that being a mother and balancing this new identity with who I used to be, a very career-oriented and focused on my economics path kind of girl, balancing these two wasn't that easy. It was quite a struggle, at least for the first couple of years. And somewhere around the point that my second daughter turned 2, I was nudged into going for a 10-day silent meditation retreat. It's called Vipassana. And that experience really altered the path I was walking on and the perspective with which I was looking at life. So that completely changed me. And so long story short, I think I got to the point where I am today, where I'm an author, I'm a mother, I'm also an economist and still a public policy practitioner, is through openness. I never really stuck to a corporate script, even though I was lucky to attend some of the finest schools and did really well. But I always remained open to taking journeys off the beaten track, be it pursuing economics when, everyone around me expected me to go into science and become a doctor or something, or seizing the opportunity to travel with my family and having to take a sabbatical out of my job to do that. All of these were not opportunities that you would plan for. They only happened because when the time was right and when the opportunity presented itself, I remained open to it. And as a family, we remained open to it. So I think I'm very much a product of being open and trusting my intuition a great deal. And it hasn't let me down so far.
I love that. And I love that your whole journey has really been relying on you and really standing for what you want to create in life. And it doesn't have to look like how anyone else sets it up to be. And it gets to really be what works for you, what serves you best. And kind of
Absolutely.
the whole mission of this retreat really going off of your own internal competence. So I love that. Let's talk about that traditional work-life balance idea and how it really never seems to give us this balance or peace that we hope that it will.
Right. Right. Thank you for raising that question. It's something that I have struggled with personally, Kaneesha. So as I said, when I think the first time I really thought about work-life balance was when I had to make choices around the kinds of careers I would like to pursue.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was really looking at the kind of lifestyle that a career path would bring. So it's simple, right? I think almost no one starts out with a sense of inner balance. Everyone starts out very eager to dive into the world of work.
Yeah.
And the money that it brings and the prestige that it brings and the social life that it brings. So we all start out at that point. But at some point, I think we start learning that there is much more to life. And we begin to one by one include these other things like health or relationships or our spiritual well-being, our mental well-being into the equation.
Yeah.
Whereas the traditional model of work-life balance is still stuck in the past. It's telling us that there are two buckets, work and life, and they're very separate, at least in theory.
Right.
And we're supposed to divide our limited 24 hours into one of the two buckets. The more equal the division, the better we think the balance is. However, one of the things I noticed is that many people might succeed at dividing up their time really well in the two buckets and still not have that sense of inner peace or inner balance. So work becomes life and life becomes work, and it all gets muddled up. So I think that's where the work-life debate is stationed right now.
Yeah. And so what is your insight into this internal balance and really finding the internal balance that seems to be somewhere in the medium of that? And not necessarily where it's equal parts, but somewhere in the medium of this work-life balance. What is that inner balance?
So in my book, Buddha Balance Journal, the inner balance, or Buddha balance as I call it, is really doing away with this whole idea of dividing up work and life separately. Yeah. In reality, all of work is life. It's life too, right? Right. So it kind of flows into each other, and I think it's a losing battle if we try to divide them up separately and then try to bucket our time. A whole new approach of inner balance that I'm proposing is to think of balance as something that's not outside of us. Yeah. It's inside of us. It's an inside job. Yeah. And sometimes that balance could look like a lot of work because we just love our work. Right. Or that balance could also look like no work and just family time or just traveling time or just spiritual pursuits. It's all okay. Every combination is okay. And that's one of my key ideas in my book, that every combination is okay so long as it's driven by an inner sense of motivation or an inner sense of well-being. And that's the inner balance we're talking about.
I love that. And so powerful. How do we really tap into that inner balance? I know that you do a lot of meditation work. So how does those two play on one another? How do we create that unwavering meditation practice? How do we intermingle that and create the inner balance?
Absolutely. So I would say that meditation is a really effective tool to get to that inner balance, because the benefit of meditation is a complex word. We can just call it stillness. Even if you sat still by a lake, just contemplating the beauty around you, if that's possible, even that can drown out the noise of the world around us. Yeah. And when that noise is drowned out, our inner voice comes to the fore. And it's all, you'll realize that it's always there, that inner balance or that voice telling us what it is that we love doing as a human being is always there, but it was drowned out by the world around us. So meditation as a tool has worked really wonderfully for me. And one of the ways of inculcating an unwavering practice is to just know a time and a place every day and to just show up. I think showing up is winning half the battle. However, I would also add that every person's meditation is different. For somebody, showing up at the gym and running on a treadmill may be meditation. Right. For someone else, swimming could be meditation. I think once we pick the activity or the tool that suits us naturally, showing up becomes that much easier.
Yeah.
And its unwaveringness then just comes naturally.
Right. Right.
But in my case, the same time, same place approach has worked.
Well, and it really speaks to the difference of motivation to discipline. And I kind of talked about this earlier in my own personal interview, was the discipline and consistency with that routine and that habit is creating the space for you to really tap into the confidence, your inner core. We're going to talk a little bit about core purpose as well, but like really tapping into what's inside of you rather than just relying on motivation that can be wavered by all the external factors and the circumstances. Yeah. So let's
spot on.
Identifying our core purpose. What does that even mean? And what is that?
So that's a really good question. And I want to give you a thoughtful answer to this one, because yes, how do you identify your core purpose is a question on almost everyone's mind. But I'm going to challenge the very question a little bit and say that we do not identify our core purpose. We fall into it. And this is really, really important. So just like we don't have to try to fall into love, similarly, I think our core purpose is always there inside us, waiting for us to pay some attention. But as I said before, there's, and you mentioned it too, Kaneesha, is that the world around us is so noisy and so geared towards incentivizing us towards certain things and disincentivizing us away from other things, that we kind of lose that connection to our inner purpose. So one of the core ideas behind me writing Buddha Balance was that by doing these exercises for just 5 minutes a day, we could bring ourselves closer to listening to that core purpose a little louder than before.
Yeah.
Because any purpose that comes from the outside or any cause that we dedicate to can leave us trapped just a little bit far away from Buddha balance. It's really important that when we identify or fall into our core purpose, we're actually falling into what's inside of us and what's beckoning us rather than what's outside of us. And from a very,
I just love how you presenced it originally with like, it's your core, it's literally what's already been inside of you. Like you're falling into what's already there. You're just becoming more aware of it.
Exactly. And I think it was Steve Jobs who said that your heart already knows what you want to become. It's a matter of listening to it and being able to listen to it despite the noise around.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love that you like already presence that it's inside of you. It's not something that you have to seek out. And I love that you clarified that question, because so many people I think will probably ask it in the same way of how do we identify it? And it's really inside of you. You get to see it now.
Exactly.
So expand on the impact that balance has on all of our mental, physical health, our self-esteem, and really why we're all here, which is confidence. So how does it impact that?
So I think there are various levels of impact. So once you have inner balance, the direct impact of that is on reducing stress levels, because we are no longer trying to fit someone else's version of ourselves. So there's a direct impact on reducing stress, reducing any kind of untrue or inauthenticness that we may be aspiring to because we're conditioned into it. And that, I think there are several medical and scientific studies that have shown a direct reduction in cortisol levels among people who are meditative or who are active and who exude confidence in that sense. But there's another level in which I think balance also impacts our physical and mental health, but more importantly, our sense of confidence. And I think that comes from this inner knowledge that nothing is really permanent.
Right.
If everything around us is in a constant state of evolution and flux, then it just makes rational sense to not remain overhung up on anything, neither the good nor the bad. It's like weather, it will change.
Yes.
So once that is clear to our minds, I think we don't feel that FOMO anymore when something we were aspiring to doesn't happen in the way that we expect it to. And that's a huge relief. In my personal experience, not having that FOMO is a huge relief. And that relief shows in the way we present ourselves to the world. If we are not constantly falling prey to the next new fad, it just exudes out as self-confidence naturally.
Yeah. And I love that because it plays such a big part even then in our success, our work, our professionalism.
Absolutely.
And where even how you started out, that there isn't a distinguishment between work and life. Life is work and work is life. And so how does that all translate, that balance and having that Buddha balance, that internal balance translate into the success, work, and professionalism?
Absolutely. And that's a very relevant question, because at the end of the day, we don't just want to all sit under a tree and meditate. We want to participate in the world, right? In a meaningful way. We want to contribute. So I think an inner balance is almost imperative. It's almost necessary if we want to make a lasting impact on the world around us.
Yeah.
Because once we start from that place of inner balance or inner being, what we are really doing is becoming aware of and acting from our core values.
Yeah.
And it is only when we act from our own core values can we present ourselves and can we participate in an authentic way.
Yeah.
So I can give you an example from my own personal practice of Buddha balance. A few years back, I was studying business, and I had this practice at that time, which limited the time that I spent on my email. So anytime someone emailed me, I had a very nicely crafted out of email message that went to the sender, and which did not say that I'm out of office. It just said that I check my emails twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And between this window, you may not receive an urgent response. And it's very interesting that one of my professors, who's a globally renowned authority on marketing, actually wrote back to me to compliment me on that message. Yeah. And she said, I remember her words, she said that I wish I could do more of this, because it is such a good idea to take time away from email and put it on doing the actual work of research and teaching and, building up the next generation. So I felt really vindicated in that sense that, if once we start cultivating our inner balance, not only does it make us more effective and help us focus on what's the right thing to focus on, but it also commands respect from our colleagues and other professional contacts we have. In fact, we could start a movement of, everybody practicing inner balance in their work and still being professional.
Well, and I love that because yesterday I was attending an event on like AI, and obviously there's so much conversation around it. But in the event, what I really heard that just landed with what you said is there is a place for automation for us to separate and do the human being kinds of things. And the human being kinds of things is the investment in ourselves, the investment in our families, the investment in the relationship that we want to create, or even just achieving and working towards that goal that we've had in mind, that vision that we're standing for. And where there are things like that we get to set up and separate, detach from, to be really present and in our being, which is that inner balance. So
Absolutely.
amazing that that's even a conversation when we don't realize that it is, and where it's all around us.
Yeah,
So let's talk about your book,
absolutely.
and how you came to put together the journal.
Sure. So let me show a copy of my book. I'm very proud of the. Oh, is it getting blurred?
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
There you go. There you go. Since we were talking about AI, there's
Yes.
a Buddha balance chip in the brain here.
Oh, I love it.
So how did I come to write this book? It's again a very interesting story, and I would fall back to my original response, which was about openness.
Yeah.
So as I said, I'm an economist. Any book I've written before this was about economics or another subject matter. And then writing about Buddha balance was not something that was planned in my mind, but I couldn't help but notice that in all the interactions I've had throughout my professional path, I've worked with artisans in the slums of Uganda. I've worked with young professionals in the corporate sector, and I've worked with experts in the field, some of whom are Nobel Prize winners. And across this whole spectrum of different people I've worked with, I realized that almost everyone was making the same mistake, so to say, which is to think that work and life is separate. And unless we compartmentalize these two, we won't be effective at either or.
Right.
And I as I said, that that's a paradigm shift in my book. I think that's the paradigm shift that I'm trying to make, which is to think of our life as a whole, and everything that we do in life aligns with our core purpose, which I'm calling Buddha balance. And once I had that idea, I was very quickly able to classify people. And usually it happens according to the stage of life that you're in. I was able to classify people into groups and stack them up in a pyramid. So the base of the pyramid is young people who want everything that will bring them money versus not. And then as we mature through life, perhaps when we have relationships, we start prioritizing our relationships and money and everything else. And then there's the next level where you're like, yeah, relationships and money, but also health, because without health, none of these would serve any purpose. Right. So that and everything else. And ultimately, we come to a point where the only thing that remains important is, what is it that brings us to our inner well-being? Which activities bring inner well-being? And which activities actually sap inner well-being? And those two remain the only kind of classification criteria. That's Buddha balance. And so based on this concept and this pyramid of balance, as I call it in my book, the whole book just flowed in the form of a journal, because we are busy people, right? I don't think anyone has more than 5 or maximum 10 minutes per day to start a new practice. So that's how these exercises came about.
That's awesome. And so how can we incorporate this 5-minute practice into our routine? Just as you talked about, that a lot of people, that story or limitation of being busy is a thing. So how do we incorporate that 5 minutes of practice into our routine to find this peace and gratitude of our life?
Absolutely. That's a pertinent question. And I could share what has worked for me and the few people that I've worked directly in building Buddha balance on. Once again, I think same time, same place, that mantra really works here. But a really useful tool to have is to actually buy the book and journal in the book.
Yeah.
The book is built in such a way that at the end of every insight is a little exercise that prompts you to think along the lines of Buddha balance. And often these exercises are followed by space to journal the insights that are unique to us, or that uniquely came to us from that exercise. So my simple method would be to get the journal and to do it one exercise at a time, same time, same place, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense too. Building that discipline, building that routine, creating that habit And being in a structured place that you know where you're going to. So you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking, you really get to just be in the being, which has kind of been a whole thing for all of today, is really being present to our body, being focused with our heart, embodying these practices, which all just increases our confidence and discovering what's already there.
Tremendously.
So, what are some tips and tricks? I know that you also work with families. So what are some tips and tricks to empower our children into exuding this balance and confidence from even a young age?
Sure. I'm so glad you asked this question, because again, I'm going to push back on this question a little bit.
Yeah.
We are all asking the question of how to inculcate something that children naturally have.
Yeah.
Balance and confidence. In fact, we can learn from them how to have balance and confidence.
So true.
Isn't it? However, the question is still valid, Kaneesha, because our society and our school system is designed in such a way that very quickly this balance and confidence goes out of the window.
Yeah. Most
kids learn how to fall in line and how to adhere to social norms very quickly, and that natural spark of feeling that, yeah, I can do this, I can do anything that I put my mind to, just vanishes. And it's such a sorry state. Yeah. So there is very much a need to bring that balance and confidence back. Yeah. And the answer to that, I would say, is wholeness. I think if we can nudge our kids into, or keep them in environments where the environment confirms their wholeness, their completeness, and belief in their own abilities and talents, which are unique for each child, by the way. Yeah. Some children could be great singers, others are tinkerers, and some could be experts at building sandcastles. Yeah. So they all have their talents. And if we can keep them consciously in environments where their wholeness is mirrored to them, where their wholeness is confirmed by the educators, confirmed by the environment, I think that's the key to building that confidence and balance back into them.
Yeah. And I love that, because it really does play into some of the conversation that we have had today about this external conditioning, and where, yes, understandably, right, no blame, no shame, no guilt, no fault to any parents out there, but we have inherently over time developed this way of safety, this way of being that protects ourselves and restrict the inherent who we be, like our core. And so I love that you presence that children already have all of this, just as we do as adults, that it's in there. We just get to become aware, and we get to recognize it and break through that conditioning that has happened over the top of it.
Absolutely.
I love that. Awesome. So I know that you have something to offer everyone who is here with us and present to our chat today. What is that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kaneesha, for the opportunity, and to everyone who's attending and giving me this opportunity to share this little gift. So the Buddha Balance Journal is already available on Amazon. However, a new aspect to it is that I have created a Buddha Balance Journaling Club, which allows people to jump on to a 15-minute call directly with me and a small group of people that we're working with to do the exercises in the journal together. And the power of doing this together as a community at the same time, same place every day is tremendous. However, this Buddha Balance Journal Club currently is an invite-only, very small group that I'm going to open exclusively to the attendees of this summit. So thanks to Kaneesha, and thanks to Kaneesha for having this in the summit. You guys are going to get the opportunity to actually jump into the Buddha Balance Journal Club without needing a special invite. So I'm going to paste a link here in the chat if that's okay, Kaneesha.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll paste a link to the Buddha Balance Journal, as well as the link to sign up to the Buddha Balance Journaling Club. And I will hope to see everyone there with their own copies of the journal.
Yeah. And for everybody who is listening to this on replay, all of the information is also going, or even live. All of you are going to receive the information in your email at the end of today's summit. So all of the speakers and everything that they are offering is all going to be included into that email for you to reference and get access to. Because honestly, like this opportunity alone is helping to establish a community, a support, accountability for you to start showing up for you, to taking specific time to find this balance within yourself, to show up in the rest of life so that you don't have to divide work, life, family, fun. You get to have it all. You get to be present in it all. So I love this opportunity that you've opened that up, and I can't wait for others to join and jump in.
Amazing.
So thank you
Thank
so
you
much for dropping that into the chat. For those who are on live, that is going to be in the chat. For the rest of you, it's going to be in your email and you get to find it there. And thank you. Thank you, Prajakta, for being here and for joining us and sharing the Buddha Balance Journal.
Thank you, Kaneesha. That was a really insightful interview. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll see you again next time, and I can't wait. I can't wait.